And, Jake Rowe on our previous chats, we are live on YouTube now, by the way. Jake Rose mentioned that the offensive line's doing their job. And I think to a certain extent they have, but Georgia's running game came through the air a lot of times in those pop passes, reverses, screens, that kind of thing. But tonight, and I'm listening to the Georgia radio broadcast crew, so I want to tip my cap to Eric Zier, who's seeing all this from his vantage point. Your guy, Palmer, former Little League baseball coach, I believe. He's seeing that Missouri is really just not holding back at all on defense, going cover zero a lot of times, just continually getting after Stetson. And that's definitely a factor right now. If you had to figure out a way to slow down this Georgia offense, it's disrupt everything. And Mizzou set the tone on that early. Georgia just entered the red zone for the first time in the game right then to end the half. And that's been a concern for Georgia, was red zone problems. Well, they haven't had red zone problems tonight because they haven't been there, Palmer.
Yeah, they haven't had red zone problems tonight because they haven't been there. Like you said, Stetson Bennett getting pressured. Like I mentioned, the lack of a run game here. Just looking at the stats, Stetson is 10 of 24, and that they are really struggling there.
Palmer, I'll admit it, I'm surprised by this game. I didn't see this coming tonight. We all expected Georgia to play their A game, and I think a lot of the angles we took on that were just based on the fact that we thought Kent State was this game for Georgia, but apparently it's evidence of some bigger problems. The major problems are not so much scheming things up at this point, even though Missouri is in Stetson's face mask all night. When you drop passes, when you can't get separation from the defense, when you turn the ball over, when you commit penalties, these are all things that we're not used to seeing from this Georgia team, and it's really surprising to me. I'm trying to figure out what the biggest difference is from that game against Oregon, from that game against South Carolina. We've seen the Jekyll and Hyde of this team so far, but now halfway through game 5, we've kind of seen more of bad Georgia, if that makes sense, more of not great Georgia. So what's the difference? What's going on?
Honestly, Wes, I'm not too sure. Just looking at this, you can tell, that they are not getting, they're not comfortable on offense. And I think it comes back to that, the comfort level on offense. And, to me, that we've talked about it several times here already, but that all starts with the offensive line. I think that, if you can't keep your quarterback on his feet or keep him from having to scramble, you saw a lot of rollouts there at the end of the half as Georgia was trying to, move and march down the field and get 7 there. They settle for 3 instead, take a penalty there. And Stetson Bennett was being constantly pressured. If you can't keep your quarterback comfortable, and if you can't run the ball, you're not going to win football games. And that starts with the offensive line. I would imagine Stacey Searles and Kirby Smart are going to be, preaching that at halftime. And I'm with you, Wes. I really don't know what the biggest difference between this team from those 2 good performances we've seen versus the 2 stinkers that we've seen, tonight and last week as well.
Palmer, for some reason, you've gone silent on this Twitter space, so just wanted to make you aware of that. I'm not sure what's going on, but we are live on YouTube. If you're listening on this Twitter space, it's a lot more fail-safe, a lot more foolproof, it seems, if you want to tune in on our YouTube over at DawgsHQ. Got some comments that have come in. Case Malaran says, a lot of eye discipline mistakes from the defense, running to the eye candy and abandoning assignments. I'm not going to lie, man. I almost get the feeling that Georgia, once again, has just not shown up in this game. And there was, some of that to an extent against Kent State, some mistakes, some confusion. But I think a lot of it ultimately comes down to a lack of that senior leadership, a lot of that NFL talent that left defensively. We saw Pop Jamon Dumas-Johnson kind of getting after Kamari Lassiter on the sideline on the TV broadcast. That's a moment where you think, okay, is this a moment of leadership or is this a moment of frustration? And you get real results, then you can say it's about leadership because then you've led your teammates and you've helped them improve. But if not, there's a lot of frustration to go around, certainly on the injury front as well. Jalen Carter out of the game. We saw a play where it looked like a Missouri offensive lineman went low. I'm not going to judge whether or not it was dirty, if it was intentional or whatever, but that's what happened, and that's what knocked him out of the game. We'll see if he can even come back. DJ Shockley reported on the Georgia radio network that Carter was in tears on the sidelines trying to get back in the game, but he's officially been ruled out. Glenn Hartley says that Georgia needs to swing the momentum. That would be huge, but Missouri has all of the momentum right now. Georgia finally gets in the red zone, executes the fake field goal, and Stetson picks up the first down, but Georgia gets backed up with penalties. Stetson inaccurate, once again missing some targets. He's missed Darnell Washington, which I can't criticize Stetson Bennett because if I tried to go out there, I know I'd look much worse than he did, but it does on paper seem almost comical that anyone could miss Darnell Washington just given his sheer size. Damian Cox thinks that Mims and Whitlock need to come in, and Truss and Ratledge struggling a little bit. Ratledge did have one of those pre-snap motion penalties, which you can't have, but happens on the road in the SEC. Jennifer Dixon says we need to get the ball in the playmakers' hands, but it's like we've lost our heart. I don't know if Georgia's lost heart yet. Let's see what happens in the second half. I still think they got some fight in them, but we will see. My concern, as I mentioned a moment ago, is the lack of leadership from this team. And if you don't have that leadership on the field, Jalen Carter, one of those leaders, and he can't even play right now. So if that's what's going on and you don't have someone out there who's actually playing that can lead, some of these moments can get big for young players. So we'll see. Case Malarian says Mizzou's going to blitz in the second half. They're not scared of the run game. That's true. Going to take quick throws and receivers making people miss. The thing with that case is that even when Georgia's tried to do quick passes, there was a tight end screen to Brock right before the end of the half there. And Stetson couldn't get him the ball because he had 3 defenders in his face. I mean, there's nothing open right now. And Georgia's run game hasn't been a strength of the team all year. A lot of Georgia's quote-unquote rushing yards have come through pop passes and reverses and gadget plays. And a lot of that came to Brock Bowers. It took Georgia until halfway through the second quarter to get Brock Bowers the ball. So I'm not diagnosing film in real time, but it seems like Mizzou has done everything it can to limit Brock Bowers' effectiveness, Palmer.
Yeah, Wes, and we've talked about it. You mentioned the leadership there. I've had several people texting me throughout this game saying, what's going on? Maybe a little bit more choice language coming from some Georgia fans there. And this is what I said. I admittedly copy-pasted the text to several people, but I said, I'm trying not to overreact to a poor start to this game. This is a young team, and they've got to grow up, but it's got to happen now. You can't wait any longer, because if you do that, you're leaving Missouri with a loss. You got to find those leaders. You got to look to them and let them make plays. I think that as you look back at that first half, not a good first half at all for Georgia. The one bright spot that you find is they did come up with bringing the Missouri rusher down just short of the goal line, holding them to 3 there instead of giving them 6. Huge, because now you go into this halftime down 10 points. You feel like it could have been less had you executed things a little bit better. Defense has got to come out and get a stop here out of the half, and the offense needs to score real quick. So,
yeah, it's It's just amazing right now, though, to see. Sorry, I got some feedback here. It's amazing right now to see just how different Georgia looks offensively. And I don't think it's rocket science. I don't think it's anything out of the ordinary. I think if you look at football historically, when you have a defense that's able to get in the backfield and make the quarterback look bad, this is my high-level analysis here. But when you're able to make a quarterback look bad or not let him have time to throw the ball, or when he does throw the ball, he doesn't feel comfortable because you've been in his face all night. That's what Stetson looks like tonight. Or, let's remove Stetson Bennett from the equation right now. Stetson Bennett hasn't been dropping passes. Stetson Bennett hasn't been playing receiver and failing to get open. Mizzou's just playing really tight coverage, and they're blitzing really well. And they have nothing to lose. And Georgia has a lot to lose right now. Let's get to some more comments. Case Malaran on our YouTube channel says Mizzou's D-line mauling the line of scrimmage on the inside. Screen was an inside screen. Whatever Georgia's trying to run, it isn't really working tonight. The red zone issues. To start the game, Georgia spent a lot of time in its own red zone. And that was where Georgia was having red zone issues, was their average starting field position seemed to be inside of Mizzou's 25-yard line consistently. They couldn't convert. There is no running game to speak of. There is no get the ball in the hands of 15 different wide receivers to speak of, like we've seen Georgia do at times this season. It's just not there. Let's look at what Stetson's doing. His box score right now, 10 of 23, 149 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. Kendall Milton, 2 carries, 36 yards, Long of 35, but he fumbled. Stetson Bennett, 4 carries, 1 yard. Kenny McIntosh, he is playing tonight, by the way. Kenny McIntosh is playing in the game. In case you missed it, he is playing in the game, and he has 2 carries for -4 yards, no receptions, so not much of an impact in the game. Brock Bowers, 3 catches, 52 yards. So he is Georgia's leading receiver, but it's all come within the last 7.5 minutes of the second quarter. Right now, if you care about these things, Georgia's win probability on ESPN's little win probability ESPN analytics machine, whatever it means, however they dial up the numbers to punch it up. I'm not sure how it works. I'm not sure that it actually means anything. But Georgia has a 50.5% chance to win. So ESPN giving Georgia 0.5% of a chance better than Mizzou to win the game. And I don't think anyone expected that. I certainly did not. I thought Georgia would cover. I've been wrong on Georgia spread predictions. Say that 5 times fast. I think I've been wrong on Georgia every time this season, barring a massive blowout in the second half. I think Brad Lord nailed it here. The only shot Georgia really has at this point is its depth, but it doesn't seem to matter right now because Georgia's depth matters when they're able to maul on you and push on you and lean on you and hurt you and make you want to quit, like Kirby Smart says, and leave a mark. And right now, Georgia just wants to leave. At least Georgia fans do. But I've seen Georgia struggle against Missouri before in the first half. 10 years ago in this rivalry, Georgia was challenged by Missouri defensive lineman Sheldon Richardson, I believe is who it was. And he said Georgia plays old man football. Well, that was somewhat of a rallying cry for the Dogs leading up to the game. And really, the ironic thing right now is if Georgia was able to play old man football at a high level, and run it against Missouri, then right now they wouldn't be struggling like they are. But they haven't been able to execute in anything when they've had plays open. And they're certainly losing those moments. They're becoming more few and far between as this Missouri team gains a lot more confidence. All right, halftime is over. I'll let y'all get back to the game. We'll be instant with our reactions after the game right here on the DawgsHQ YouTube channel. Please hit subscribe if you're watching this in a replay. I don't know why you would, but you're more than welcome to. Glad you're here. But if you're watching live, hit subscribe if you don't already. We'll catch y'all soon. Thanks.